I still remember the knock. Hard, cold, like a warning. When I opened the door, 3 officers stood there, hands on their belts, eyes scanning my porch like I'd done something criminal. And behind them was Linda from the HOA, smirking like she'd just won a war. What she didn't know was that the man she called the cops on was the sheriff himself, and me, his wife. That was the day everything in our perfect neighborhood fell apart. Hey everyone, welcome to HOA Nightmare. I'm Daniel. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside Pine County. I work from home, and yeah, I'm married to the county sheriff. If you've ever dealt with an HOA, you already know. They act like gods with clipboards. If you've ever hated them, or dreamed of standing up to one, then you're in the right place. So hit that subscribe button. And if you're as tired of HOA drama as I am, type BOO HOA in the comments below. Now, let me tell you what really happened when the HOA called the cops on the sheriff's house. It started with a letter, plain white envelope, no name, just the HOA logo, a tree with roots shaped like shackles. Inside, a notice, violation, unauthorized structure in front yard. I stared at it for a good minute, then looked out the window at the structure they were talking about. A small wooden bench, painted blue, built by my husband, the sheriff, for our anniversary. It sat under the oak tree where we used to drink coffee together before his morning shifts. Peaceful, quiet, apparently too peaceful for Linda. Linda was the HOA president, the kind of woman who smiled when she fined you. She had a clipboard in one hand and gossip in the other. She said the bench violated aesthetic uniformity, that it made the street look unprofessional. I laughed when I first read it. My husband didn't. "Don't poke the bear, honey," he said. But I could see it in his eyes. He hated her as much as I did. The next morning, another letter. Warning number 2. Yard lighting too bright. Except the lights were solar. Soft. Barely brighter than a candle. Then came the third letter. Trash bin visible from street view. At that point, I knew this wasn't about rules. It was about control. So I decided to test her. I put the bin exactly where she said not to. Front and center. Within hours, she was outside taking pictures like she worked for the FBI. The next day, she knocked on my door. Her voice syrupy sweet. "Hi, Danielle. Just wanted to remind you that you agreed to follow the HOA regulations when you moved in." I smiled back. "Oh, don't worry, Linda. I'm following them exactly as written." She frowned. Her nose twitched. The kind of twitch people get when they realize they're losing control. That night, she sent a formal complaint to the HOA board, and that's when things started to spiral. 2 more notices came, then fines. $50, $75, $125 for petty things. Mailbox height, flower color, even the sound of our wind chimes. It wasn't about community anymore. It was personal. But what Linda didn't know was that she'd just declared war on the sheriff's house. That Saturday, my husband parked his patrol car in the driveway. He wasn't on duty. He just didn't have space in the garage that day. The next morning, a citation appeared on the windshield. Violation. Commercial vehicle on residential property. Linda signed it herself. I swear I saw her that morning standing across the street, coffee cup in hand, watching, waiting. So I walked out and waved. She waved back, the fakest smile I'd ever seen. I wanted to say something smart, something that would sting, but I didn't, because I had a better idea. That night, I filed my own complaint against her. I cited Article 5, Section 3 of the HOA bylaws. No board member shall use authority for personal harassment. I sent copies to every homeowner on the street. CC'd the local HOA compliance office. And just for fun, I sent one to the sheriff's department. 2 days later, I heard the sirens. I thought something serious had happened. But then I saw the patrol car stop, right in front of my house. Linda stood proudly beside them, clipboard ready, pointing at our home like it was a crime scene. She must have called them herself. "Suspicious vehicle," she probably said. I opened the door. And there they were, 3 officers, looking confused, then realizing who they were talking to. The sheriff's wife. Linda's grin melted. The color drained from her face. And that's when my husband stepped out behind me, badge on his belt, coffee in hand. "Is there a problem, officers?" he asked. The silence was delicious. One of the cops coughed. The other tried not to smile. And Linda? Well, Linda started to stutter something about procedure and neighborhood safety. My husband just nodded. "Appreciate your time, boys," he said. Then turned to her. "Ma'am, if you have an issue with me, file it properly." Then he shut the door. And that was the moment everything changed. For days after that, the neighborhood buzzed with whispers. People started waving at me more, smiling when they saw Linda drive by. One even left a note on our porch. "Good for you." Someone needed to shut her up. But Linda wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. And that's when things turned from petty to dangerous. Because when an HOA president loses control, they don't step down. They go nuclear. What would you have done if your HOA tried to find your sheriff husband's patrol car? Would you fight back? Or let karma do the work? Tell me in the comments, backhand index pointing down. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of scraping. Metal against pavement. Rhythmic. Angry. I looked out the window. Linda was standing in my yard, digging a small hole by the oak tree. At first, I thought she'd finally lost it. Then I saw it. A small metal stake, with a red flag on top. "Property line marker," she said, her voice sugar-coated. Fake smile shining in the morning sun. "I just thought I'd double-check where your tree actually sits, Danielle." I didn't answer. I just stared, because I knew exactly what she was doing. If she couldn't find me for the car, or the bench, she'd try to prove that our tree, my favorite tree, wasn't even on our property. Classic HOA move. When they lose power, they go for blood. That night, I found a new letter in my mailbox. This one wasn't typed. It was handwritten, in neat, loopy cursive. "Dear Mrs. Daniels, until further review, your oak tree and bench are now under HOA investigation. Please refrain from using or altering said area until resolved. Sincerely, HOA President Linda Marks. Investigation for a tree." I almost laughed. Almost. My husband didn't think it was funny. He looked at the letter, then looked at me. "You want me to handle this?" he said. I shook my head. "No, I got this." Because this wasn't about a tree anymore. It was about control. And I wasn't letting her win. So I did what any normal suburban wife would do. I went full Karen. I printed every rule from the HOA handbook, all 87 pages. Highlighted the parts she broke herself, like how her trash bin sat out 12 minutes past collection day, or how her mailbox paint didn't match the approved color code. I made copies, put one in every neighbor's mailbox, and at the bottom of each page, I wrote, "Rules are rules. Love, Linda." The next day, the whole street was chaos. Neighbors whispering, some laughing, some actually thanking me. By noon, Linda was outside again, clipboard shaking in her hand. "You can't distribute private HOA documents without board approval," she shouted. I smiled. I didn't. They were on the public website. Page 3, Section 2. Her lips twitched. She knew I was right. For a moment, I thought she'd back off. But Linda wasn't the backing off type. That evening, she hosted an emergency HOA meeting. In her driveway. No invitation. No warning. I saw the folding chairs from my kitchen window. A bunch of bored neighbors pretending to care. Linda standing at the front with her clipboard, like she was giving a TED Talk on control. I walked out just to see the show. "Some residents," she said loudly, "believe they're above the rules. They think their connections make them untouchable." Everyone turned toward me. Her eyes glowed with petty pride. "So, effective immediately, we'll be voting on stricter regulations. Patrol cars, decorative benches, unapproved lighting, all subject to fines." She smirked, like she'd finally cornered me. But then, one of the neighbors raised his hand. "Linda," he said, "isn't your brother the one who parks his plumbing van here every night?" Another neighbor chimed in. "Yeah, And didn't you repaint your shutters blue last month? Murmurs spread. People started pulling out their phones, snapping photos, recording videos. Linda froze. For once, she didn't have a rule ready. I didn't even need to say anything. The neighborhood turned on her all by itself. That's the thing about HOA tyrants. They only have power until people stop pretending to care. By the end of the meeting, half the board walked out. The rest agreed to review the new regulations before voting. And Linda? She stormed back into her house, face red, clipboard trembling. I thought that was the end of it, but I should have known better. Because that night, around 11 p.m., I heard something outside, rustling near the oak tree. When I stepped out, a flashlight beam hit my face. And there she was, Linda, in her robe, sneakers on, holding a measuring tape. Linda, what the hell are you doing? I asked. She jumped, then smiled. Oh, just verifying tree placement board business. At 11 p.m., I could have called the cops. I could have screamed. But instead, I just pulled out my phone and hit record. Her eyes widened. Are you filming me? Yep, I said. For documentation. HOA loves that, right? She muttered something, then hurried off, her flashlight bouncing across the grass like a guilty conscience. I didn't know it then, but that 30-second video would change everything. The next morning, I uploaded it. Title: HOA President Caught Trespassing at 11 p.m., Investigating a Tree. Within 24 hours, it had over 50,000 views. Neighbors sent it to friends. Friends sent it to family. And soon, the county news station called. Linda became famous. For all the wrong reasons. The comments section was brutal. She needs a hobby. Power trip level. HOA president. Someone get this woman a real job. And then, someone recognized her last name. Because Linda's brother, the plumber with the van, had a few unpaid parking tickets. Guess who had signed off on them? Yep, the sheriff. My husband. When I showed him the viral video, he just laughed. Guess we'll be getting fewer violation letters now, he said. But I wasn't so sure. Because the thing about people like Linda, they don't give up. They dig deeper. And I had a feeling she was about to make her biggest mistake yet. If your HOA president trespassed into your yard at night, what would you do first? Film it or call the cops? Backhand index pointing down. By Monday morning, the neighborhood didn't feel the same. It was quieter, but not peaceful. The kind of quiet that comes right before a storm. I could feel eyes watching me from behind blinds, whispers from open garages, phone screens lighting up every few seconds. The video had gone viral. And Linda had gone missing. No morning walk, no clipboard, no car in her driveway. It was like she'd vanished into the very bylaws she loved so much. Around noon, I was sipping coffee on the porch when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mrs. Daniels, a woman's voice said. This is Karen from Channel 6 News. We'd love to ask you about the HOA video. I almost choked on my drink. Wait, you mean that video? Yes, ma'am. It's all over Facebook, TikTok, Nextdoor, even Reddit. People are calling it the HOA tree scandal. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Linda had wanted control. Now the whole world was controlling her narrative. By 2 p.m., the news van rolled down our street. Neighbors came out pretending to check their mail. Phones out. Recording. The reporter stepped onto my lawn. Microphone in hand. Perfect hair. Bright smile. Mrs. Daniels, could you tell us what happened the night your HOA president entered your property? I kept my tone calm, like I wasn't still half shocked by all this. She said she was verifying a tree. I replied, board business, apparently. The reporter blinked, then smiled. Did you press charges? I shook my head. No need. I believe in letting people show the world who they really are. That line hit hard. It ended up being the clip they used on TV. That night, my husband came home from work with a grin. You've officially embarrassed the most powerful woman on Maple Grove Lane, he said. She called the county office today, tried to file a harassment complaint. I frowned. Against who? He raised an eyebrow. Against you. I almost dropped my fork. Apparently, Linda claimed that my video was slanderous and caused her emotional distress. She even sent an email to the HOA board demanding my removal as a homeowner. Can she even do that? I asked. He laughed. Not legally, but she's definitely trying. That's when the real chaos started. Neighbors started taking sides. Some thought Linda deserved it. Others said I went too far. Someone even taped a paper to the HOA bulletin board that said, "Free the tree, deciduous tree." Another one said, "Down with Linda." By the next morning, there were memes. People photoshopped Linda's face onto movie posters. Mission HOA Possible. The Fast and the Frivolous. Karen versus the Sheriff's Wife. I couldn't stop laughing. But Linda wasn't laughing. At exactly 9:17 a.m., I got a certified letter. Official HOA letterhead. Gold stamp. Way too dramatic. It read, "Effective immediately, Mrs. Daniels is placed under HOA review for conduct unbecoming of a community member. All privileges and voting rights are suspended pending investigation." In other words, Linda was trying to cancel me. I read it 3 times, then looked at my husband. "You think she typed this herself?" He grinned. "Judging by the tone, 100%. So I decided to have some fun. I printed the letter, framed it, and hung it right above the blue bench in our yard. Then I posted a picture online with the caption, "New decor. HOA approved, I think winking face." Within an hour, the post blew up again. People commented things like, "Queen behavior face with tears of joy. She's fighting HOA tyranny with aesthetic." And my favorite, "Someone give this woman her own Netflix series." But not everyone was amused. That night, Linda finally showed up. I heard her car before I saw her. That silver SUV with the HOA strong bumper sticker. She stepped out wearing sunglasses at 9 p.m. and marched right up to my porch. Her voice trembled, but her anger didn't. "You think this is funny, Danielle? You think humiliating me is some kind of game?" I leaned on the doorframe. "Linda, you came into my yard at night with a tape measure. The internet thought that was funny. I just pressed upload." Her jaw clenched. "You've ruined my reputation." I tilted my head. "You built it yourself." For a moment, I thought she was going to scream, but then she just turned around, got in her car, and drove off. Fast. The next morning, my husband was already on the phone when I came downstairs. His face was serious. When he hung up, he said quietly, "That was the HOA board. They're calling an emergency meeting tonight." "For what?" He sighed. "To vote on whether Linda should be removed as president." That night, the neighborhood gathered in the community hall. I could feel the tension before I even stepped inside. Linda was already there. Hair perfect. Smile stretched thin. She spoke first. "I admit mistakes were made, but I've served this neighborhood for 6 years, and—" Someone in the back interrupted her. "6 years too long." Laughter erupted. Her face tightened. Her voice cracked as she continued reading from her clipboard. But every word made it worse. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't say much. I just played the 30-second video on my phone. Linda's flashlight beam lit up the whole room. No words, just silence. And then, the vote, 12-1. She was out. When I walked out of that room, neighbors clapped. Someone handed me a cookie. Someone else shouted, "Long live the bench." I just smiled, because I didn't need to win. I just needed her to stop. But the thing about people like Linda, they don't disappear quietly. And a week later, I found out what happens. When you humiliate someone who has nothing left to lose, do you think Linda deserved to be removed as HOA president? Or did I go too far by posting that video? Be honest, backhand index pointing down. For a few days after the vote, things were peaceful. No letters, no meetings, no Linda. It was strange. Like the neighborhood was holding its breath. The lawns looked greener. People smiled more. Even the air felt lighter. But peace in a place like this never lasts long. One evening, I came home from grocery shopping and found a note taped to my front door. No envelope this time. Just paper. Folded once. In bold black ink it said, Enjoy the calm while it lasts. No name. No signature. But I didn't need one. The handwriting was perfect cursive. Linda. That night, my husband was working late, so it was just me and the creaking silence of the house. Every sound felt louder. The fridge hum, the ticking clock, even the wind. Around 10:30, I heard something outside. Soft footsteps on the gravel. I peeked through the curtains. Nothing. Then, a shadow moved past the mailbox. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, pressed record. When the motion light flicked on, the driveway was empty. Just my oak tree, swaying slowly in the dark. But on the bench, something sat waiting. A small black envelope. I walked out, heart thumping. Inside the envelope was a picture. A photo of me, standing in my yard 2 days ago, talking to a reporter. The caption scribbled below said, "You think this is over?" No return address. No fingerprints. Just fear. The next morning, I took it straight to my husband. He frowned. "This is harassment," he said, then paused. "But unless she threatens you directly, it's just a note." I could tell it bothered him. He just didn't want to give her the satisfaction. "Let her play her games," he said. "She'll hang herself with her own rules." But I wasn't so sure. Linda wasn't the type to hang herself. She was the type to build a gallows for someone else. 2 nights later, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, no one was there. Just another envelope. This one heavier. Inside was a key. Old, rusty, and a note. "You forgot this." No clue what it opened. No clue what it meant. But something about it felt wrong. Almost like an invitation. The next day, I found out the HOA storage shed, the one where they kept all old records and fines, had been broken into. Files scattered, locks cut, and someone spray-painted on the wall. No more rules. They blamed teenagers. But I knew better. Linda had always been obsessed with those records, especially the old complaints, the ones that showed who she'd fined over the years. Maybe she wanted to erase something, or someone. By now, even the neighbors had started avoiding her house. The blinds were always shut. The lights never turned on. And yet, people swore they saw movement inside, sometimes at 2 or 3 a.m. The mailman said he heard voices, arguing. But only one person ever lived there. Linda. One evening, while walking my dog, I saw her car again, parked near the old community sign. The same silver SUV. She was sitting in the driver's seat, staring at me. Windows up, engine running. When I waved, she drove off. Fast, but not before I saw it. The same clipboard, lying on her passenger seat. And on top of it, a file with my name on it. I tried to brush it off, pretend it didn't scare me. But it did, because the next morning, when I went to grab the mail, there was another photo. This time, it was my husband, sitting in his patrol car, outside the sheriff's office. The photo was taken from a distance, through a car window, and written across the bottom were 4 words. "He can't protect you." I took it straight to the police. They filed a report, but without proof she sent it. There wasn't much they could do. My husband was furious. "I should have handled her when this started," he said. "Now she's losing it." He added cameras to the front yard, floodlights on the garage, even changed the locks. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about safety anymore. It was about control and fear, and Linda was winning. That night, the lights flickered in the kitchen. Once, twice, then went out completely. When the generator kicked in, I noticed the back door was slightly open, just an inch, but enough. I froze. Then I saw it on the floor. Another note, written in the same cursive. "This neighborhood doesn't belong to you." I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window with a cup of coffee, watching the dark street, waiting for headlights, or shadows, or sirens, and somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., I saw it, a faint glow, across the street, Linda's window, for the first time in weeks, and behind the curtain, a figure moving slowly, holding something that glimmered under the light. If you were in my shoes, and your ex-HOA president started stalking you after being removed, Would you confront her face to face? Or let karma take care of her? Backhand index pointing down. For 3 nights straight. I didn't sleep. Every sound felt like a warning. A creak. A rustle. A whisper against the glass. And every time I looked outside, that same faint light flickered in Linda's window. She was watching. I could feel it. By the 4th night, I'd had enough. I wasn't going to hide anymore. So I did something I hadn't done since this whole thing started. I baked a pie. Blueberry. Her favorite. And the next morning, I walked right across the street. Her lawn looked different now. Overgrown. Weeds poking through the cracks like rebellion. I rang the doorbell. No answer. Rang again. Then the door creaked open. Just a few inches. And there she was. Hair messy. Eyes swollen. Clipboard gone. She looked human. Linda, I said softly. We need to talk. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Then she whispered, everyone hates me. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then she looked past me. Across the street at my house. They listen to you now, she said, her voice breaking. They think you're the good one. I sighed. This isn't about good or bad, Linda. It's about being fair. She laughed. A dry, bitter sound. Fair? You humiliated me in front of the whole county. She stepped out onto the porch. The sun hit her face. And I finally saw it. She wasn't angry anymore. She was lost. All I ever wanted, she said, was for people to follow the rules. To care. No one cared until I made them. I nodded slowly. I get that. But there's a line, Linda. And you crossed it. She looked down at the pie in my hands. What's that? Peace offering, I said. Blueberry. Her lip twitched, like she was trying not to cry. Then she whispered, I don't deserve that. I smiled. Maybe not, but it's still yours. I placed it on the porch rail, turned, and walked away. But before I reached the sidewalk, she called out, Danielle. I stopped. You think this makes us even? I didn't look back. Not even, I said. Just done. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept. No notes. No noises. No lights in her window. When I woke up, the pie dish was gone. And for a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, peace had finally returned to Maple Grove. 2 days later, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. Cream-colored. Handwritten. But not from Linda. It was from the HOA board. Dear homeowners, we are pleased to announce that the position of HOA president has been officially vacated. Nominations are now open for replacement. Respectfully, the board. My husband looked up from the letter and grinned. Guess who they want to nominate? I groaned. Oh no. No, no, no. Not me. He laughed. Apparently, half the neighborhood already voted for you. I couldn't believe it. Me, the woman who started this whole mess. HOA president. Part of me wanted to laugh. The other part wanted to run. Because if I'd learned anything from Linda, it's that power in suburbia comes with a price. That evening, as the sun went down, I looked across the street. Linda's blinds were still drawn, her driveway still empty. For the first time, I wondered if she'd really left, or if she was just waiting, watching, planning. Because people like Linda, they never really go away. They just find new rules to enforce. If your whole neighborhood wanted you to run the HOA after all that chaos, would you take the job or burn the rulebook? Backhand index pointing down. I never thought I'd be sitting in the same chair Linda once ruled from. The chair creaked, like it still remembered her. And honestly, so did everyone else. When the board called me in, they smiled too wide, talked too soft, fake calm, like they were trying to pet a nervous dog. Danielle, they said, we think you'd be perfect to lead Maple Grove into a new era. New era. That's what they called it. But all I could hear was trap. I looked around the conference room. The table was covered with paperwork, violation slips, late fee records, stacks of rules that could choke a forest. And right there, at the top of the pile, Linda's old clipboard, her name scratched out, but still visible underneath the ink. It felt like a ghost sitting between us. I laughed. Me? You want me to be HOA president? After everything that just happened? The treasurer nodded eagerly. Well, you've shown leadership. Translation. You stood up to Linda and didn't crumble. They didn't want a leader. They wanted someone to blame next time. I said no. Twice. But by the third meeting, the pressure started to build. Neighbors stopped waving. Emails started showing up. Danielle, we need someone like you. Danielle, the board's out of control again. Even my husband said, you might as well do it. Better you than another Linda. And he was right. Better me than another Linda. So, I said yes. The first thing I did was open the HOA records. And that's when the real story began. There were folders labeled confidential. Old complaint logs. Handwritten notes in Linda's sharp, angry handwriting. Some were weirdly personal. She'd written down things like, Lot 42, dog barks too much. Lot 7, grass 1 inch too long, watch husband. Watch husband. That one made my skin crawl. I flipped through more pages. There were dozens of them. Little warnings. Little power plays. Little obsessions. And at the bottom of the pile, a file marked private, do not open. You already know what I did next. Inside was a stack of photos, all taken from the same angle. Through a window. Through my window. Each one had dates written in red pen. All from the nights she'd filed noise complaints. My hand started shaking, because now I understood. She wasn't just watching me. She was documenting me. Every night I thought I heard something outside. She was there. Click, click, click. I closed the folder slowly. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I felt something new. Pity. Because this wasn't just about control anymore. It was obsession. She'd lost herself, trying to control everyone else. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at that same clipboard, and I made a promise. No fines for lawns. No late fees for broken mailboxes. No spying. No fear. If I was going to lead Maple Grove, it wouldn't be through punishment. It'd be through peace. At least, that's what I thought. 2 weeks later, a new letter appeared under my door. No stamp. No name. Just 6 words written in the same sharp handwriting I'd seen before. You think it's over? It's not. If you found secret photos of yourself hidden in old HOA files, would you go public, or keep it quiet and plan revenge? Backhand index pointing down. The night was too quiet. No sprinklers. No dogs. No cars. Just the kind of silence that feels staged. I sat by the window, staring at the mailbox across the street, the one that used to belong to Linda. Her house was still dark, empty, but somehow not dead, because sometimes you can feel when a place is watching you. I was halfway through a cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity wins over fear every time. Hello. Nothing. Just a soft breath. Then a whisper. You shouldn't have opened the file. My blood ran cold. The voice was low, unsteady, but familiar. It was her. Linda. I stood up so fast I nearly dropped the phone. Linda, what do you want from me? A pause. Then she said something that made my heart stop. You think I called the cops that night? What? I didn't. Someone else did. And just like that, the line went dead. I replayed those words in my head again and again. Someone else did. I'd built this whole story in my head. Linda being the villain. The HOA as the monster. But what if there was another player? Someone higher. Someone pulling strings. I went back to the HOA office. Late at night. The key still warm in my pocket. The building creaked like it didn't want me there. Inside, everything smelled like dust and old secrets. And right there on the desk, a new folder. My name on it. Not handwritten. Printed. Official. I opened it slowly. Inside were copies of every violation I'd ever received. Every complaint. Every email. Every fine. Except the dates didn't match. Some of them were months before Linda even became president. The signatures were different too. One name kept repeating at the bottom of every page. Thomas Reed, HOA Regional Director. I frowned. That name had never shown up before. So I did what any sane person would do at midnight in an empty HOA office. I Googled him, and there it was. A news article from 2 years ago. Thomas Reed, County Housing Authority officer arrested for corruption and evidence tampering. He'd been fired right before joining our HOA's regional committee. So that's who called the cops that night. Not Linda, not a neighbor, a man who'd been using small neighborhoods like ours to keep his power alive. Linda was just the face, the puppet. He was the hand. The next morning, I called a meeting. Every homeowner showed up. I stood there, in front of all those faces, the same ones that used to glare at me over lawn paint and trash cans, and I told them everything. The files, the photos, the fake complaints, and how we'd all been played. People gasped. People cried. One guy even shouted. I knew it wasn't just me. For the first time, the neighborhood felt united. Not against each other, but against the system. We voted that night. Unanimous. The HOA of Maple Grove officially dissolved. No more fines. No more threats. No more late-night lights and windows. Freedom. Finally, as everyone left, my husband looked at me and smiled. You did it, he said. You actually took them down. I laughed softly, but part of me still didn't believe it, because peace in suburbia never lasts long. A few weeks later, a moving truck appeared in front of Linda's old house. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand. A woman stepped out. Young, sharp suit, clipboard in hand. She turned and waved politely. Then she smiled. The same kind of smile Linda used to wear. Tight, perfect, cold. A sign went up on the lawn that afternoon. Neighborhood Association reinstatement, coming soon. I laughed out loud, because deep down, I knew what was coming. HOAs don't die. They just move into new houses. Would you ever live in a neighborhood with an HOA again? Or would you rather let your lawn go wild forever? Backhand index pointing down. The next morning, the air felt heavier, like the neighborhood itself was holding its breath. I was halfway through my coffee when I heard it. 3 sharp knocks on the door. Not angry, not gentle, just deliberate. I froze, because after everything that happened last night, I wasn't expecting visitors. I peeked through the blinds and saw her, Mrs. Cranston, the HOA president, pearl earrings, pressed blazer, clipboard in hand, like she was ready for war. I took a deep breath and opened the door. She smiled that fake politician smile again. Good morning, she said sweetly. I just wanted to follow up about last night's confusion. I didn't say a word, just watched her eyes shift from my face to the sheriff's patrol car parked in my driveway. Her smile flickered, just for a second, and I swear I saw her jaw tighten. She started rambling about protocols, safety, misunderstandings. But her voice, her tone, wasn't confident anymore. It was defensive. Then the door opened behind me. My husband, still in his uniform, stepped out. He nodded politely at her. Morning, ma'am, he said. Something I can help you with. And that's when the whole act collapsed. She started stuttering. Well, officer, I just wanted to make sure everything was resolved properly. He leaned against the doorframe, calm, collected, the quiet authority that filled the space without raising his voice. He said, Ma'am, you called the police last night on your own county sheriff's house. Would you like to file another report? Her face went pale. Her clipboard trembled slightly in her hand. No, I think we're fine, she muttered. Then she turned and walked away. Fast, her heels clicking down the driveway like she was running from her own shadow. And for the first time since I moved into this HOA, I actually felt free. Later that day, the whispers began. The other neighbors started asking questions. The same people who used to look away when I passed by now waved, smiled, even apologized. Word spreads fast when an HOA president embarrasses herself publicly, and even faster when it's caught on a police body cam. Let's just say, the next HOA meeting was very quiet. No one dared fine anyone that night. No threats, no letters, no rules about mailbox heights or trash bins. Just silence. and eyes that didn't meet mine. A week later, the HOA board voted to replace Mrs. Cranston. They called it a leadership restructuring. I called it karma. I didn't celebrate out loud, but inside, I was laughing. Because sometimes, you don't need revenge. You just need the truth to come knocking on the right door. Now my mailbox stands proudly. My porch lights shine however I like. And every time I see a patrol car cruise by, I smile. Because in this neighborhood, justice doesn't wear a suit or carry a clipboard. It wears a badge. Have you ever seen karma hit an HOA member like this? Or would you have handled it differently? Tell me in the comments. I read every story, especially the wild ones. The screen fades to dark suburban streets at night, a faint hum of crickets, and a distant barking dog. Areas calm, suspenseful tone, slow pacing. You've been watching HOA Nightmares, where quiet neighborhoods hide loud secrets, where power trips meet karma, and where every perfect lawn has a story buried underneath. If you've ever battled an HOA, or dreamed of getting your revenge, hit that subscribe button, because here, every week, another nightmare begins. Beat pause, music swells slightly. Until next time, keep your grass wild, and your freedom wilder.